Okay, now create a new schedule. Okay, it's going to be 4 weeks. Okay, and put in 4 weeks. Save that. And so they're the two that you had. And now what you'll do is on the 2 weekly schedule, you will pick all of the pieces of equipment that are to be done every 2 weeks.
Okay.
So tick whichever ones are relevant for 2 weeks, save that. Now on the 4 weekly schedule, do the same thing. Then I'll get to you to the trick. Save that, which is great.
Yeah.
Now, the trick here is that your 4 weekly cycle may not begin at the beginning of 2 weekly cycle. It may be 2 weeks into it. So you need to look at your starting dates for the schedule to make sure they marry up with the expected jobs that need to be raised.
Right.
The starting date is the key here. You need to start off this 4 weekly cycle at the right point. And once you pick that right point, then it will continue on every 4 weeks from that point onwards.
Okay.
Now, is this the kind of company that must do the service on the nominated day, or is this basically, here are the jobs for the week, sometime in the week?
They've got flexibility, a small amount of flexibility, a day or so, I would think.
Well, that's okay. Just leave it as it is.
Okay.
That's fine. So make sure you start the 4 week cycle at the right date.
Yes. So they're both starting together now. Fine.
Because out of the 4 weeks in the month, 3 of them are going to be wrong and 1 of them is going to be right for the 4 week cycle.
Right.
So you need to pick the right date to start the cycle. Same with the 2 week cycle. You need to make sure that you pick the right starting date for the 2 week cycle, because in a month, 2 of the weeks will be wrong.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, once you've done that, if you now raise, let's do a process. No, go utilities setup first. We're going to make sure that the setting is on to merge. If you turn on the option to set up to merge, then when you raise those schedules, the 2 of them will merge on the 1 job.
That's not my problem, David.
Okay.
The problem is that if I go to the spreadsheet, they want to keep this run of jobs here.
Yes.
They can plan for Monday. Then in 8 weeks' time, they don't want to have to reshuffle or to replan all those jobs to create the same sequence.
So it's the delivery sequence that's the issue.
Yes, the order of them during the day, I think what we're saying, isn't it?
Repeating that sequence, yes. Because this sequence is what's efficient in terms of travel times.
Is it always that sequence between those sites?
It will change occasionally, but they don't want to keep reinventing it every week because someone's got to go in and work out the best route between those 19 places.
Can I make a suggestion? The first one comes off the top of my head. Okay? This is a report that's going to have sorting requirements. So what the guy's going to do is he's not going to have this report. He's going to have his TSM mobile, correct? And he's going to have a job list in TSM mobile for today's jobs, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. So the idea is we need to sort that job list in a corresponding order, simply, that brings it in the order he wants to go in. Now, there's no standard column TSM that's going to give you that as such. So if we were to use an existing field or create a user-defined field which is sort order, let's say, and then we chose a field that was available in the grids, and then he went through these sites and put 1 in the first and 2 in the second and 3 in the third and 4 in the fourth, or he made it 10, 20, 30, 40 so he can slot ones in the middle. Then if we make that as a column on his TSM mobile job list, he can then click on the column header of sort order and it will sort it in the right order. For me, a very simple
But
solution.
what you got to bear in mind, this is for week 4.
Yes.
He would need a sort order for this group of companies. When
So
he goes to week 6, he's going to have 4 weekly cycles coming in, so he won't be able to visit all 19 on that day. Some of those 19 will be heaved over to somebody else because it's a high volume day for him.
So would though not the order between sites, even though the site list will be different, be the same? Wouldn't he still start at one corner of the city and then make his way through to the other corner of the city?
No, because he won't be able to get there in one day. Some of these will have to be shuffled off to somebody else's route for them to take the extra workload on that part of the cycle.
So it's not a sort order as in a relationship between the physical locations of one site to another. Is that correct?
Yeah, the only way I can think of doing it is having like a sub postcode or something like that, so there was a logical link, but whether that would work.
And the time doesn't work at the moment. Is not done by time, is it, Mark?
What's that?
If we had each job set for an hour after the other one, would that then create the order in the schedule? And then
that
the order
wouldn't create the order, no. And we don't know how long it's going to take from TSM for him to do this work, I don't think. I don't think there's any way of pushing that through. We'd have to get that from the equipment, what the standard time is to do a swap out of a unit. And that's not going to work because some places they've got to go up and downstairs, and other places, let's say the Shrine of Remembrance, he might be able to park right next to, walk in, walk out. So
each day, week of the cycle, this is always the same, but it differs from week to week. Is that what you're saying?
Saying it's an 8-week cycle. So this is Monday of week 4. If we looked at Monday, which I haven't got, if I was to be able to say, well, let's look at Monday of week 6, he would have more product in here. And therefore he'd have to, some of those would have to go off the bottom and be shuffled over onto somebody else's route.
So it's all being done in one truck, one driver currently.
Yeah, they've got 12 drivers, so they can.
And they work on runs. They still don't work by person. It is done more by a run.
Don't have a relationship between a group of schedules that we can store the sorting information into. That's a problem.
You almost want to be able to go into the visual scheduler, select a day's work, copy it, and paste it to date in the future.
But it still sounds like they're going to almost have to say beforehand, list all the jobs to be done. And once again, this is for a week, not for a day. So this is for a particular day, isn't it? Within
Monday.
the week. It's the Monday. So they almost have to say for a particular day, by list all the jobs that you need. And how do we assign the jobs to an individual?
Well, we were thinking last week that we would actually assign it to a van using the visual scheduler. But I can see that as that's not standard TSM practice, causing problems when we come to reports and it says put the person's name in, or the field it says put the person's name in. So for the time being, following my conversation with you, David, I spoke again to the customer. They're thinking, oh, we'll just schedule work for the individual and we'll know that they're running in van 3 today, that Dave's got van 3 and Joe's got van 4. So
I'm having an idea. I don't know if it's a feasible idea or not. Is there a different approach that we can take? Can we calculate somehow, based on the equipment under the schedule, the time it's going to take to do each one of those rows? And say, for example, that a guy has 6 hours in the day because the other 2 hours he's driving between sites. And then we calculate automatically on a routine which jobs are going to be included based on the time. But we still have to sort it somehow based on route from one to the other.
Yeah, that's the clincher, I think, David. It'd be great to have the first thing you mentioned, to have some sort of algorithm, but the clincher is getting the route right and being able to repeat that route. And incidentally, for some reason, in that demo, the maps aren't working.
They should be working. The map should be working.
Where we saw that the other day. So
The maps
don't tangent into a map right now.
It's got you stumped, hasn't it?
Well, it's the relation. It's the routing, because we don't have routing. It's the routing that's the big problem here.
Yeah, but
They want dynamic routing for each day, and we have routing within a building between equipment, but not from one site to the other. And they don't want to recalculate that. They want it just to be static. They don't want to have to go through a process every week of looking at the jobs for the next week and working out the order.
can we do some clever stuff with postcodes?
No, they might all just be in CBD. It could all be in, no.
That's what I wonder, whether you could have like a sub postcode.
We haven't in any way yet defined. See, even if I look at their spreadsheet, there is no rule defining the relationship between one site and another for the walk order. They arbitrarily choose the list and then save it as a template to be reused over and over. Well, we have to look at how TSM's, the other thing of what TSM's got. TSM has got what most products have, which is we have a list of equipment on sites that are scheduled to be serviced on a routine basis. So I can pull out a list of the jobs that need to be done on a particular day. So getting this list is a doddle. That's no issue. But then they have the complication of two things. One is, what is the relationship of the order between the jobs? And the other one is, there's no guarantee that what comes up for that day is humanly possible to actually do. Right?
I think that the latter one they're not expecting us to solve at the moment. Is it physically possible to do it in the time available? And it's going to be more difficult than just assigning X minutes to each product, excuse me, because one washroom might be up 5 flights of stairs, and another one might be on the ground floor next to the entrance. So same product in each washroom, one's going to take a lot longer to do than the other.
Okay, so therefore, how
So
do
let's
we
get back to the routing.
get to the relationship between one site and another for routing purposes? Now, one that comes to mind, and I could be completely wrong, and I probably am wrong, is if we made an assumption that a person was going to visit every single site possible within his location to do a relationship, a sorting order, if he was to do that, starting at the first to the second to the third, which using the method I showed before, and then assuming if we take the ones out of the middle, the route still remains exactly the same between the points. Is that a valid assumption or not? If we had 50 sites in the city and we said if I started at the first one on the bottom left-hand corner and went through every one of them, this would be the route, and if I took 30 of them out so there are only 20 left randomly, would that still make a logical route? Or not?
It's routing, yeah.
So that's the first one to mark, you mark. Would that still make a logical route? If it does, my first idea holds, which is we literally go to every site and put a sort 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 in some field, and then we sort this by that. Just because we pull ones out in the middle doesn't mean that. But in the real world, does that hold true? Is there a better route if there are less sites to physically go to?
At least, David, if you did that and we did that at the maintenance level, we're still given the option to be able to go in and then manually change those exceptions, aren't we?
Well, No,
So we're still.
not
Oh,
really.
you're
Not
saying
really.
not really. It could be just completely wrong. Completely wrong.
No, see, this is what I'm saying is against the site ID, we store a route number, 10, 20, 30, 40, whatever, for all the sites that would possibly come up within the region of that particular employee.
Yeah. So then you might have a site which you flagged as order number 10, and on one day, because of all the various schedules, it comes out last, and really it should be the first one.
Yeah, so that's my question is, if we did that approach and we pulled half of them out in the middle, would that route still be valid? That's the easiest one to implement because there's just another column on the list which is sort order against the site ID 10, 20, 30. We sort it by that, and there it is. But and I probably wouldn't try to think of anything more complex at this point until we sort out whether that's realistic or not.
Okay.